Hello and welcome to another Game Nexus arcade video. Today we're going to be taking a look at Soul Calibur on the Namco System 12 arcade hardware. What we're in right now here, if you can see, is the test menu. I'll zoom in just a little bit here. I'll show you a bit more of this in a second once I show you how everything's hooked up here, but you'll see. I'd imagine you can read that at this point. It says SoC 14 version B, which is the world version, as I had mentioned in my new pickups video. I'm just going to pop the camera off here real quick and show you what we're dealing with here. Now, just like with all my Namco System 12 boards, what you see right there is the Sega Titan video board with the Virtua Fighter cartridge, which is not in use right now. This is the JVS to JAMA I/O from the Sega Naomi. Currently has the video cable plugged in from the board, which is actually down here. I can show you real quick what we have going on down here. Let me see if I get the light so we can actually see this. There we go. See, there is our System 12 PCB along with our JVS Naomi power supply. It's plugged in with the 6-pin. Then the other end of that video cable is plugged into one of the video plugs. And of course our audio is plugged into the red and white audio with neither edge connector connected, since we don't need to have those connected because we're not using JAMA or the auxiliary edge connector. Let me show you some of the stuff in the test menu here real quick. I'm going to zoom in here. If my camera wants to zoom in, that is. Here we go. Okay, here's our test menu. Let me grab the controller here. And of course, here's our ADS data. The only thing I think is a bit weird is somehow it hasn't saved all the coin data, and it hasn't saved the actual play data, how many times a certain character has been played. But you can see, and another thing is it hasn't saved the on time, because it says this is the now time, this is the on time, which is 44 minutes and 14 seconds. That's how long I've had it on right now. But strangely enough, it actually has saved who's unlocked and everything. So if I go to button 1 here, you'll see there's only some play for Arthur and Song Mina, because I've played them. Whereas you'll see everyone is unlocked here, but it just doesn't have that ADS data, which I find a bit strange, honestly. But it's no big deal, because everybody's unlocked and I can play all the characters. So if we go ahead and get out of this, one thing I just wanted to point out is the default difficulty is hard, which honestly, if I set that any lower, I think it would just be way too easy. I could just change hit effect here back to normal, mild, and neutral guard to yes. I have round time at 60 seconds because anything shorter I always find just honestly way too short. And then we're just going to get right out of this and get right into the video. And of course, the first thing you see here is your Namco logo, followed by Soul Calibur. And now this is the easiest way to tell that you have the world board as opposed to the United States or Japan board. If this were the United States or Japan board, instead of seeing Hwang Sol-yoon doing his weapon demo here, we would be seeing Keelik, because both of those versions you see Keelik do the weapon demo. And another thing to take note of is you'll see the English and Japanese websites being displayed at the bottom of the screen, as opposed to the Japanese and English versions displaying .com and .co.jp respectively for those versions. So that's one kind of quick difference that you can notice here if you happen to get a board that you don't really know what version it is, so you'd easily know. And of course, if you let the demo mode play for a long time, you see just about every other character's weapon demonstration, which you can see in the Dreamcast version as well.
Welcome back.
And that title screen, I believe, is just when all the characters are unlocked, and you can see all the characters from the Dreamcast version are playable here. but of course the one we're going to focus on here is Arthur. As I had mentioned before numerous times, since this is the world version, Arthur's kind of bit is the censored version of Mitsurugi. And one thing I liked about Shanhua here is I like how she has like this red hair, as opposed to just about every other version of Soul Calibur where it's like a dark brown or a black. I kind of think it gives her a bit more character, and it just makes her look a bit better. And I know a lot of people will be looking at this footage thinking to themselves, now that game doesn't look nearly as good as the Dreamcast version, but one thing you have to remember is, this is actually working on a slightly souped up Dreamcast spec as opposed to, a slightly souped up PlayStation spec as opposed to the Sega Dreamcast version, which goes without saying, runs on the Sega Dreamcast. And as you see, the big change with Arthur here is, as opposed to Mitsurugi, instead of having black hair, he has blonde hair and an eye patch. And a cool thing, which you'll see later in this video, is that Arthur actually has his own ending, which is pretty cool. They didn't just change Mitsurugi's name to Arthur and use the exact same ending, which I think would have been very lame if it was simply like let's say for instance it was something like Mitsurugi cut down all his foes with his katana, and it just made it Arthur cuts down all his foes with katana. Because I've seen them do stuff like that where, like, for instance, like, any references to honey and fighting vipers became candy. So, if there's anything written about her in the game, it would just change the name. But this, of course, is an entirely different case where it was really a case of censorship where certain regions... The idea of a samurai wasn't a good thing, but I guess a pirate/sailor wasn't a bad thing. And one thing I definitely love about this game is, even though it's only running like on a slightly souped up PlayStation, kind of like Tekken 3 and Tekken Tag Tournament, it actually renders the backgrounds in full 3D, which, in the long run, they just end up looking really nice. As opposed to, like, if you recall my Tekken and Tekken 2 videos, those just had kind of like flat backgrounds, or even like Virtua Fighter 2 for Sega Saturn, where it just kind of just had a flat background. It's just nice to see, like, certain elements you see here which have kind of 3D elements to them. And one thing I definitely have to say in this game is, you can hear it as you're watching this video now, and I'm sure if you're accustomed to the Dreamcast version, you will know as well. This game just has excellent background music. It's just that, like, poorly orchestrated sound, and it just sounds really good. And of course what you're going to see here is the second costume for Edgemaster. And of course, if you did not play Soul Calibur, and like you're really only familiar with like the newer games, Edgemaster is your charade, Ultradan, like, character who basically mimics all other characters' movesets randomly. Which is one of those characters that's actually pretty fun to play with, especially if you're not good with every character, because it's kind of like a roulette then. Will you get a character you're good with? Will you not? Who knows? And another cool thing is, it was present in the Dreamcast version, but it's also present here. If you press the guard button, it will let you choose 3 different weapon types. You can either have player 1's weapon, player 2's weapon, or Edgemaster's weapon. Now, in this whole playthrough, I actually only lose twice, which I believe the first time is here at Voldo, which, for some reason, the announcer in this game calls him, like, Voludo, so he kind of like he adds a second vowel, well, a third vowel, because as you can see, the name is Voldo, V-O-L-D-O, but he kind of makes the L make a lu, so he's like Voludo. It's almost as bad as the announcer from Soul Edge would say. Instead of Sophidia, he would say Sophitia. And of course, it goes without saying, the only ports of this game were the Sega Dreamcast version, which, just like Tekken Tag Tournament, the Sega Dreamcast version was a bit of an enhancement. All the graphics got a nice smoothing, and basically like all the jaggies and rough edges got completely removed. And that, of course, that was 1999 to go along with the Dreamcast. I believe it was the end of 1998 in Japan to go with their launch. And then all the way in 2008 for the Xbox Live Arcade version. The only unfortunate part of the Xbox Live Arcade version is a lot of these fighting games, when they finally bring them to like a platform like PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Arcade, they bring online play, but the unfortunate part is when they brought it to Xbox Live Arcade, they decided not to include an online functionality. And I remember saying at the time, if you included online play in Soul Calibur, nobody would buy Soul Calibur 5, because honestly, in my opinion, the original Soul Calibur is one of the best games in the series, and considering, well, once again, in my opinion, how much of a mess Soul Calibur 5 was, it kind of was that, like, departure where they got rid of all the characters that you liked and replaced them with, like, really cheap imitations. I honestly didn't think that the new game would really have all that much sale if they really did that, so I guess they kind of played it safe and decided not to include online play, or they just kind of wanted to make a quick port and not have to worry about adding the online play component. Now, just in case you wanted to know, the actual release date for this arcade version was July 30th, 1998. I would imagine the revisions and enhancements, like your this one is considered the version B for the SoC 4/14. Now, to clarify that, SoC 14 is the program name, whereas SoC 4 is the stamp on, is the actual sticker on the bottom of the board. It might also be the name of, well, like, one of the program ROMs or something as well, which would make plenty of sense. And now, when it came to Soul Calibur, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is, more or less what they did with a good deal of the roster is they took your basic character and then kind of added their clone character. So, like, for instance, Song Mina, they made Keelik. For Sophia, they made Lizard Man. Now, instead of leaving them as, like, complete clone characters, your clone characters, like, here we have Astaroth, who is kind of the clone character of Rock. They gave them some of their own unique moves, their own throws, but it's one of those things, like, if you know how to play as, like, one of the characters, it's not really all that hard to play as the other one. Like, for instance, Wang Soyun, his clone character is Shanhua. Although, I'll go on record because I've always been a big Shanhua player. That Shanhua is a bit quicker and she has a lot of different throws. Now, as opposed to the console version where there'd be kind of like a story thing, where the characters are kind of like talking to each other, since this game features a lot less voice because it's running off of ROM chips as opposed to having, like, either a CD, GD-ROM, or a DVD-ROM, it just has kind of, like, the character doing, like, a hi-ya or something before the match. And I definitely have to say, I'm happy to finally be able to play as Arthur here properly in Soul Calibur. Now, the big thing was, I've heard a lot of rumors that there actually was a version of the Dreamcast game that had Arthur in it, which I can say now, doing a lot of research and, of course, downloading a lot of the foreign versions of Soul Calibur, I honestly have not come across it, so if it does exist,
I wouldn't mind seeing some proof, but otherwise I'm going to say that a Dreamcast version with Arthur is kind of a complete myth and does not exist at all. But what I was going to say is, as of this recording, which right now we're in the middle of August of 2015 when I'm recording this video, Soul Calibur does not run properly in MAME. The problem is, now your mileage may vary if you have a slower or faster computer. When it's actually displaying the demos and everything, like it shows Huang Soyun or Helix doing their demonstration in the beginning, everything seems to run perfectly at a perfect speed. But when you get into the actual gameplay, everything runs a lot too fast. And now for some reason, when I see Inferno, like, flailing his arms back, it always makes me think he's, like, doing pelvic thrusts towards you, for some reason. It just always makes me think that. But as I was saying, at the moment of this recording, the gameplay of Soul Calibur just runs a bit too fast in MAME. I don't know if it's, like, something wrong with the timing, or if the game's just not emulated properly, but there's no emulator that I know of that runs Soul Calibur properly, the actual arcade version. Plus, if you watch my channel at all, you'll know that I love playing these games in their, like, 100% original form, as opposed to running them on an emulator anyway. So, finally getting the Soul Calibur board, and not only that, but the SOC4 board with Arthur, was something that I just wanted for a long time. And when the seller on eBay put this board up and said that it had SOC4 sticker on the bottom, I jumped on it right away because I knew it wouldn't last long if other people looking for this got wind of that. And of course what you saw there was my only other loss of this gameplay. And when I say loss, I mean losing both rounds. And one thing I have to make mention of is, I have a little cheapy tablet, and I installed the Android version of Soul Calibur on it. And I always remember whenever this stage is actually displayed on the tablet, it always slows down just enough so the game is not running all that well. And whenever I see this stage for some reason, I always think of the tablet just not running quite well. And I know in the Dreamcast version, I don't know if it's the same here, because I didn't really fight Inferno enough, but Inferno kind of has some of his own moves that he can do, as opposed to Edgemaster, who only has the specific character he's mimicing's moves. He has like these, Inferno here has like this throw where he does this helicopter thing and slams you on the ground, and I think one or two other cool things he can do, which are really cool. And one thing I noticed when I was facing him with the, with him having the Soul Edge, is the eye was not open like it was in other versions of Soul Calibur. You win! And now here's your ending. I'll be quiet during this. And of course, there was your ending for Arthur, as opposed to Mitsurugi's ending, which, if I recall correctly, was much different. And of course, here's your ending credits, which displays all of the people who worked on this game, but it goes basically without saying that Soul Calibur is an excellent game. Now, you may ask me, would you recommend somebody pick up this game? Now, the people who I recommend pick up a Soul Calibur arcade board, of course, are big Soul Calibur fans, and of course, big arcade collectors. If you are neither of those two, then it probably wouldn't be something you'd want to invest your money in. But if you're a fan of the Soul Calibur games, I would highly recommend picking one of these boards up. And of course, if you just really like to get a lot of arcade games, and you wanted an arcade version of Soul Calibur, otherwise, you're better off playing either the Dreamcast or Xbox 360 arcade version, or of course, playing the, at the moment, poorly emulated efforts on MAME. But yeah, this game is really good, and I don't know why, but it kind of seems like a Tekken Tag Tournament where the arcade version kind of has a different, like, I don't know how to say it, like, feel to it. And it just kind of feels a bit new and a bit different. But yeah, Soul Calibur, excellent game, highly recommended. Play this game no matter how you are able to do it, whichever version you can play. And of course, since the high scores are so high in this, I was laminated would get one. I will see you later. Bye.